Okay, reality and illusion. There's an interesting book came out in the 90s, The Tao of Physics, it was called, and a physicist had figured out that a lot of the things that physics was discovering in the area of quantum physics actually reflected Hindu tradition. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, a lot of the assertions that are made in the Bhagavad Gita is in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna comes to share his wisdom with Arjuna in the middle of a battle. So he stops time because Krishna is all powerful, and then he and Arjuna have this discussion about why Arjuna should fight. And in that he says all sorts of interesting things. One of the things that he says is nothing that has not been can ever be, and nothing that is can ever not be. So, in other words, energy, which everything is energy, stays within the universe. I think that's the first law of thermodynamics, the law of conservation of energy. And that was written 2600 BC. And one of the other things that he says is it's all one energy. The entire universe is all one energy. And so all you need to do is read a little bit about quantum field theory, which is, it's not a theory in that, like string theory. String theory is, this is how we would like it to be, but we have no evidence. Quantum field theory is the most accurate way we have of representing our universe. It's as simple as that. And so if we rely on quantum field theory, there are more accurate measures of what happens both in the classical world and in the quantum world. So one of the other things that's a part of the Hindu tradition that's also got a bit of airing from physicists is that this world is an illusion, and it undoubtedly is an illusion. There's a concept which has it's not liked, but it's probably the best way of describing this. It's known as the Cartesian Theater. What it consists of, there you are, you're sitting in the movie, and in is coming the information from the movie. And you are trying to interpret your reality based on the information in the movie. But the movie is an illusion. It's been created by people. I'm not suggesting that the universe has been architected as a belief-based suggestion, but personally I think, looking at the balance of probabilities, it's very likely. That's just a personal perspective discussion for another time. So the universe is one energy, which is undoubtedly true, and what we see is an illusion. What we see is a way of representing our reality in a way that enables us to survive. So if you do the 6-week course, one of the things that I do is I rattle your confidence in reality with a handful of things. One, I do the brown things experiment. Does anybody remember the brown things, where I get you looking for brown things? We could do it here. Okay. 10 seconds, look around you. You want to have as many brown things as you can listed in your head starting now. 10, 9, 8, 7 brown things, 5, 4 brown things, 2, 1, close your eyes. And except for those people who've done this before and remember it, now tell me how many blue things you saw. Okay. There's 2 lessons in that. Lesson 1 is you don't get to choose your reality, your subconscious does. And I did a thing was known as priming then. I primed you to notice something. Yeah, I could be an advertiser, couldn't I? So I primed your focus on something, and what happened is you didn't notice anything else. That's a thing called selective attention. That's one lesson. The second and far most important lesson, really let this sink in. If you had 2 people you brought them in this room for 10 seconds and you asked one to look at the brown things and the other to look at the blue things, and you went out, there would be a huge disagreement because one would only see the wooden bars and the framing on around the mirrors and the door and the bag and the skirting, and the other one would only see the yoga mats and the blue yoga pillow thingies over there, and so same room, same experience, same reality, but different. Now, if that isn't an illusion, tell me what is. The most useful thing about this is this, and that is that one of the greatest resistances to becoming present and actually doing this meditation malarkey at all and spending time doing it is that you have in your head a belief that your past is an absolute, your memory of your past is an absolute indication of your past, and that the present moment that you have, you share with everybody else. So there's an absolute belief that you have an understanding of the reality of the present moment. You don't. What you're getting is, you know, I get Robert's version, Helen gets Helen's version, Max gets Matt's version. The most amazing thing to me is that anything works, that people get on at all. Because when you take culture into it, it's all completely different. So apparently the ancient Greeks didn't have blue, it wasn't in there. And if you speak to hunter-gatherers, they don't do colour, not like we do. So there's just some very, very light indications. Now the thing is, the fuzziness of reality, what that means is that once you accept that it's all not as absolute as you believe it is, you're prepared to let go of all of the stuff in your head that's getting in the way of you exploring your reality through the lens of the present moment, and doing that in a gentle and curious way, in the knowledge that it's totally unpredictable, totally unpredictable, and our job is to watch life unfold in the present moment. We can get there, but what we've got to do is let go of all of the absolutes that live in our head because of our we think there's an absolute reality, we think it's absolutely shared by other people, and then there's conflict when it doesn't, and from that you get right and wrong, good and bad, fair and unfair, good and evil, goes on and on forever. And letting go of that whole thing, you're actually letting go of the thing that's stopping you from sitting quietly and noticing the present moment unfolding without expectations, desires, needs, wants, unsatisfactoriness, all of those things. They can all go. This is it. This present moment. That's all there is. Everything else is an imaginary thing. And this is why people say things and you think, no, you didn't. You didn't say that. Ever had that one? You just shut your mouth. I mean, I just shut my mouth most of the time. But at the end of the day, who's right? Is it my, if something was supposed to have been said in a conversation and I don't remember it, is it me that's constructed it, or is it that person that's forgotten it? And largely it doesn't matter, because most of the past is as fuzzy as the present moment is, because the past is made out of lots of present moments. So understand the fuzziness of the present moment, understand that this world is an illusion and everything's connected, and life becomes a lot simpler. More on this in the deepening course. So now for the meditations. Yes, I do have a meditation that will help you notice an illusion. So what I'm doing here, has anybody got a water bottle that is light and transparent? Can I borrow it? Actually, if you can do me a favour, just pop it in the middle of the floor, please. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's better like that because it works better. And so if you're listening to this on the podcast, all you need to do is focus on something. It's easier when you're at home. And that thing, it's better if it's translucent or reflective, something like that. And our job, what we're going to do, this is a thing called clarity. And clarity is understanding what we add to an experience. So whenever I teach this, I know that the first thing that goes on in people's heads is alarm bells. I can't believe I'm meditating on an Evian bottle. What's all this about? That's fine. Notice that happening. There's more that you'll notice happening. You don't, if it's difficult for you to see it, you can move and you can just focus on something else. Doesn't matter really what you look at. And then you're looking at it, and in your head is what's happening is what the brain does, is the brain is an association engine. It takes things that we perceive, smells and tastes and what we can see, what we can sense happening, and it compares that to what's living in memory, which is how I knew that's an Evian bottle. And what it does from there is that it will bring to light associations related to it. So if you have something that's precious at home, that's also something like a vase or a glass or a bottle or something like that, you do this meditation on that, what will happen, especially if it's got a bit of history, is as you notice it, all of the associations related to it will pop up in your head. You might remember looking at this when the last time you had some Evian was. It might be a sense of, oh, well, I prefer, I don't know, Highland Spring. Might take you back. It might have a memory for you. And then one of the other things that will happen is elements within it will become prominent, and there could be meaning associated with them as well. And those meanings will pop up. So when we start this exercise, which is a Dzog Chen, which is a Tibetan Buddhist meditation group, meditation practice, this is a Dzog Chen clarity meditation. And what clarity is learning the way that the brain stores associations with something. And then we just carry on looking at the Evian bottle. And then what happens at some point, it takes longer if it's got a lot of memories and associations. But without them, at some point, what happens is the mind selects some elements of the Evian bottle that it tends to focus on more. It seems to be drawn to something, which is why this works well if it's translucent, because there's reflections, there's patterns, there's light and dark, colours, brightness. Some parts of it are sharp and some parts of it aren't so defined. Contrasts between the shapes, contrasts between the colours. And then in time, what will happen is that the form of the item will separate itself from the meaning of the item, the memories and the associations. And then bit by bit, it becomes a set of visual elements. Each element has a colour, it has a shape, it has a contrast, it has a texture. It might have a gradient of colour, a gradient of lightness and darkness. Eventually, in time, your mind is likely to settle down on a single element of the item, and that retains your focused attention. So from here I can see the water at the top. There's a reflection in it, there's different colours, brightness quite reflective. Possible that some associations might pop up based on whatever it is that you find yourself focusing on, but again they'll drift away. And this experience has a quality to it. This experience of just focusing on something that has become an abstraction. So it no longer has the detail and the meaning. So after a while it actually stops being the surface of the water and it starts to become an eye shape where the outside is dark and there's a ring of lightness within that, and then it's less light in the centre. If you close your eyes, you can retain the image if you're a visual person, or if not, the sense of observing this abstract visual element that has been separated from its meaning. So either with your eyes open, focusing on whichever visual element has attracted your mind, or with your eyes closed, holding on to quality of the sense of the experience of simply observing something that's abstract, that has no triggers for thought, neutral. So that relationship to the abstract element in the bottle is the same as when we listen to the sound of the bell, which I'll strike in a moment. We're separating out a detail again, and the detail we're separating out is the sound of the bell in the present moment. We're letting go of the past and future of the bell sound, and instead we're just noticing how it sounds in the present moment, and then we're aware that that's moving through time. And then we can learn that that experience is available in the present moment all the time. To experience it, all we need is something to focus on, and the thing that's always there, the breath, rising and falling. At any point you can open your eyes and meditate on the mandala, which is what the detail in the bottle has become for you. It's a single point visual focus. Or you can focus on the breath, and you can move between them as well. So you're letting it guide you through time by remaining in the present moment. And of course the mind will have other ideas, and the mind will draw your attention away, but then return it to the present moment. However many times the mind draws your attention away, you can bring your attention back one time more. If your mind wanders and you notice, you bring your attention back to the breath, extend the next 2 out breaths. make them longer. If you find that difficult, the best way to do it is by making the out-breath audible in some way. And you can do that constricting the throat, breathing in, breathing out through the mouth, constricting the back of the nostrils. There seems to be many, many different ways of doing that. We're either focused on the breath, or we're focused on the mandala, or we're moving between one and the other. Our mind wanders, we come back to the breath, 2 extended out breaths, somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds as you breathe out. And back to meditating on the breath or on the mandala. This adding the out breaths, this is what I call an extension. So you've got the meditation and you're extending it, adding something to it. And you can add another thing to it, which is to note those 2 out breaths as you breathe out, longer out breaths, and saying in your mind as you breathe out, thinking, thinking. Bend the thinking notation to the length of the out breath. This is a cyclical process going on. You're observing it in your mind, you're noticing the breath, and then your mind will wander, and at some point you'll notice your mind's wandering, and then you're saying in your mind, thinking, thinking, as you breathe out 2 extended breaths, and then you're coming back and you're noticing the breath and the mind wanders, and so on and so forth. And that goes on. It's happening within something. So the sound of my voice is happening within this room. The thoughts that you have are happening somewhere, some space, place. Or awareness of the thoughts, that's also somewhere. And what this is all happening within is stillness, calmness. And you can perceive that stillness and calmness to be an emptiness. So for example, you can notice the silence between words. Despite the background humming noise, words are happening within that, and we're waiting for another word. And what exists between the words is silent stillness. So as you're noticing the breath, you can also allow your awareness to be drawn to the silent, still emptiness in which thoughts arise and in which the mind operates. You want to notice the silence in your mind, then all you need to do is repeat a mantra and space out the words. May I be well. And instruct the mind to pop up the words randomly rather than in the same cadence. So sometimes there's a long gap between 2 words and other times there's a short one. They're all long enough to notice the silence between the words. Again, noticing the movement of the sound of the bell, carrying your awareness through time as you notice it moving through time. Hopefully, whenever you're ready, gently return your attention to your surroundings. So what all of this does is, if we go back to the clarity meditation, when we began the experience, the Evian bottle, it had a lot of meaning as a thing, and then over time it changed into colour, shape, and we let go of it. And so if you practice this when you're at home with something that's got a lot of meaning for you, memories are attached, associated with it, you see them all popping up, and then bit by bit they drift away as the mind focuses on an object and witnesses it. And that's all of the judgments drift away, all of the expectations, the modern cultural meanings associated to something. This is a good way to, if you find yourself craving a thing, so, I've got to buy a whatever, sit there and look at it and don't take your eyes off of it for 15 minutes, and it will separate into its constituent parts. Did this experiment with cars a while back because I was thinking, should I buy a car? I even figured out the car that I'd buy if I was going to buy a car. The money was burning a hole in my pocket, and I realised what I was doing. Don't need a car, and so what I did was I looked at these cars more. Actually, looked at the car. Look at it, and then it separates into it became its visual representation. And over time, actually the kind of desire for it, which has got to do with, all of the things that people in the modern world believe that their car bestows on them, that all drifted away. And I noticed the form of cars. And the thing I noticed was, they all look the same. The reason they all look the same is because they're shaped so that when they hit a pedestrian, that pedestrian doesn't hit anything that's going to cause them a great deal of damage. The idea is hit pedestrian and they roll over the top of the car. They don't get run over, squished, hung up on something. So that's why cars are so bulbous at the front. I really thought about the fact they all look the same after I'd done this for a while, and actually looking at the thing itself and then separating out what it actually is. It's just something that you see in this instance, something that gets you from A to B as well, but a lot of other ways to get from A to B. There's buses, you can walk. So yeah, that's what you're seeing is your illusion. For the car has all this meaning, and then it drifts away. And that happens with relationships, it happens with careers. I'm going to do this career, it happens on holiday, I'm going to go to this place, it's really glamorous. And then when it separates into its constituent elements, a beach is a beach, and a beach bar is a beach bar, and so on and so forth. And then you're left with a difficult job of comparing it to other beaches, which is a pointless exercise. And so that you can apply that to anything. It's just notice it often enough, focus on it, until it separates into what it really is, which is, I'm not drinking the Evian, so basically it's a visual experience. It becomes a visual experience. And then you realise that everything else is illusion, which it is. Because we don't all share it. Some people think some cars are fantastic, other people think other cars are fantastic. Separate illusions.